Hello everyone, I should be live now. So, yeah, okay. Say hi in the chat if you're there joining me today. So we'll continue our journey on the multiplayer path with Unity 6. I've figured something out yesterday off stream, and I made hot reload work, so hopefully it still works. So let's give it a try. Hello Coding Jammer, how are you? Okay, so just simple setup here. Okay, that's working. And let's try to start a second host, or a second virtual player rather. And hopefully it will show up and hot reload will not screw up the window for the virtual player. So while it's starting, what I did basically is in the player here, project setting, I believe, on the player in the resolution and presentation, I've enabled run in background because that's gonna be necessary for netcode multiplayer with the multiplayer play mode, and also for hot reload to be able to recompile automatically in the background while we are editing the code. I've also, and that's something that I've not done here because I had to reinstall everything, dock the hot reload plugin window somewhere, so that normally it should not pop up again, but we'll see. And in the settings for this one, I've also said that it should never show up on startup. That's basically the stuff that I've changed, and now we have the second player that is working indeed, and I can start the third and fourth, and it should work also. One additional thing I did, because I did all of that, what I just showed, and initially it worked only for player 3 and 4 and not for player 2. So what I did is, I need to find it again actually, but if you go into your project folder, let me put it somewhere. We'll manage. I need to get rid of these fancy zones. You should have somewhere a virtual player folder. I think I had it. I'm trying to find. I don't find it. I know I. Yes. Over here, you can. It's much simpler. On the player, you can open in Explorer, and that will do just that. And for the 3 players, I deleted them so that it restarts everything, because if you deactivate a player, it doesn't actually remove this folder. So each of the folder is one of the player. And I had to delete all 3 players and re-enable them from Unity to make it work. So we should hopefully soon have our 4 players. Player 3 is active and the player window is working. And player 4 just popped in. So 3, 4, number 2 can put it there. And if I go back in game, I should be able to start a host. Okay. And go to my other clients. So this one is client number 2. Client number 2 apparently has an exception, but we'll ignore that and cross our fingers. We are connecting and connected, and it is over there. Client 3 and 4 are still compiling. Still entering play mode, but at least we have 2 players, so we can check the functioning of our networked behaviors. It's quite long. Hopefully it's just for the first one, or first start, let's say. Come on. Okay, let's skip this. Hopefully that will not mess up everything, but let's skip that step. Other stuff that I did was to fix a bit the source control, because I didn't want to have asset inventory in the source control, and I don't want the scene dependencies either, and I didn't want also to have hot reload. So apparently all the packages are excluded except for hot reload, which is considered a local package. So I had to update the ignore file. Okay, now player 4 is started. Okay, never mind. Are you using a Windows Dev drive? I'm not sure what you mean. I'm on Windows. So I'm guessing I'm using a Windows drive, but I'm not sure exactly what you mean, Coding Jammer. So basically what I've done is that I've added the package, scene dependencies, and asset inventories to the ignore.conf, which is part of your project files. And it still did not solve the issue. It was still considered added to the source control, because apparently in the source control configuration, in the options, it automatically add any new files to the source control, which I don't really want, because if I import an asset or something like that, that is not necessary for the game, or I just want to try it out, I don't want to have that as part of the source control. And also now we have ignored files, so these are not part of the source control at all. These are files that have been added to the source control but not yet committed, which is kind of strange for me. And these one are files that are not yet added to the source control. So here the scenes, for instance, I would want them to be part of the source control. So I need to right click on them and add them to source control, but it doesn't even work there. So I'm kind of lost with how the Unity source control is working. So hopefully I will not lose any work, and thankfully for this I'm still working alone, so I won't have any issues with anyone else not having the files that they need. But yeah, I don't feel like it's working like a normal source control tool. Or maybe I'm too used to Git and previous versions of source control, but it's a bit strange to me. Windows offers a Windows Dev Drive storage volume optimized for developer workload, introduced in Windows 11. It is built on a resilient file system, REFS, which offers better performance. No, actually, I'm not. I'm still in Windows 10, sorry. French stepped over. I'm still using Windows 10, and I'm not using that. I'm usually working with Git, so saving the source in Git, but I wanted to go full Unity with this one and try all the features of Unity, including the source control. And I'll be honest, for now, I don't like the source control of Unity. There are some features that apparently are quite interesting, like being able to compare assets. So if you're working on assets that has been updated, you can have a side-by-side view with a slider to show your local version and the one that is on the source control. So that's useful. That's something that Git doesn't have, but if it's a mess to add and ignore files, not sure I will stick to it. So that's pretty much it for what I did outside of the stream. I just want, before we continue with game dev, to share with you a bit of news. We have JetBrains Rider, the publisher of the Rider IDE, which I'm using, that has created a new tier or a new version which is completely free for non-commercial development. So you can use it to learn, basically, to do open source project, to do content creation also. So I technically would be able, if I didn't already purchase a license, I would technically be able to use it in this stream. But yeah, so if you want to check it out, you can go to the Rider page. And actually, it's probably simpler. Rider JetBrains. Yes, I'm in French, sorry. So in English, and you have the free version for non-commercial. So Coding Jammer is using Git on my small home server. Love it, but yes, Unity version control doesn't feel finished. Yeah, it's not very user-friendly for now. So I'm pretty sure it needs to have some getting used to it, but it's not very user-friendly in the first instance, not very intuitive. I know they did introduction video on their channel, on the Unity channel. They did an introduction video. I watched it quickly, but it doesn't go even over the basics of adding a file to the source control or just ignoring them or stuff like that. So it's a bit confusing. So, for instance, here I don't even know. Okay, so I can't add the folder, but I can add the file. So let's add the file to the source control. Okay. Is it not able to work with folders? I mean, maybe it makes sense, but actually the tutorial info for URP, I don't really care, so I can remove that. Do some cleanup. If you have any other questions related to dots or game dev in general, both in French and English, you can ask them, and I will try to answer them to the best of my abilities. So the plan for today, after all of this introduction, will be to not actually work with the multiplayer widget, but to follow the guide. I think in the connecting players, we'll go through the documentation. This one, if I remember correctly. Yes. Through this documentation, where we will go to create a multiplayer session with netcode for entities. So we'll follow this guide. What do I plan for physics? Are you using separate client physics word for visual physics? I'm not sure what you mean by visual physics, but my plan is to use the dots physics, not physics. So the dots implementation of physics. And I'm planning to basically first create a full character controller, because the one that is existing and was developed by Philippe Sataman, first, I'm not really a fan of it. I find it to be too complex, and I would like to learn a bit more about the physics of character controller and actually implement one myself to be able to tweak it and modify it as I want. So that's one of the reasons I don't want to use the built-in, let's say, in quotes, dots character controller. And also it's working with Orbital camera, a custom camera controller, and I want to use Cinemachine. So it's another aspect of the stuff. So yeah, we are going to be trying to follow this this guide. So let me think how I can set up the window so that it makes sense to look at. I'm sorry, but maybe I will put that off screen for you, so it's easier for me to actually follow both of them. I mean, you have access to the same page as I do. I will paste the link to the documentation. I spinned up the separate client physics word on to simulate, for example, some visual effects only on client side. Example, when destroying boxes and the debris collides only on client side on this specific player world. Okay, I see what you mean now. I'm not sure I want to have this kind of behavior on my game. Basically, I'm making a multiplayer co-op platform puzzle game. So I don't think I need or want to have client only, let's say client only simulation of physics. And yeah, I'm not sure how I would do this kind of stuff. I mean, you can create another world, but you would need to duplicate all the environment also. So I think there is probably a simpler way than to just do another world for that specific physics. But yeah, client-only entities, because basically that's a client-only entity. I need to dig into it, because that's actually I would probably need something like that. Because if for for instance, for combat or character selection or something like that, if I want to have a visual representation of what is selected, I want this visual representation to be only on the client side. So yeah, I will need to think about how to do something that is client side only. We'll see if the documentation has something at some point for that, but yeah, it's a interesting topic. So following the guide, verifying the package. So I think we are good for the package. We installed everything through multiplayer services. Sorry, multiplayer center, so which should be good. We do have the multiplayer play mode, and we do have the player 2 active. I will actually disable player 3 and 4 because just 2 for now is enough. Hello Nubas, welcome back. And netcode for entities setup. I think that's the samples widget sample. Actually, since we are starting, say, from scratch with the documentation, I will probably remove all of that so that we have a clean slate. And we can build everything instead of going through the widget code and try to figure it out. Okay, so let's go to the normal scene. Don't save the netcode sample scene. Okay. So I have my sample scenes. Build profile and project settings. We must add the current scene to the build. Okay, so build profiles, scene, sample scene, it's there. This one should be removed because it no longer exists, but we do have our scenes, sample scenes. So that's okay. And then running in background. So running in background, I already did it, mainly for auto reload and for netcode. So you can go to project settings, and then it's in the player under resolution and presentation, and you can enable run in background. So we are good with that. Create the initial scene. So okay, let's create a new subscene. So create, where did I put new subscene? Sorry, empty subscene. To the given name to it. No, they are not creating a subscene, sorry. They are creating a game object capsule named player prefab. Okay, we create a prefab folder, something. So we are just creating the character player, and I assume we are creating the prefab from. Yeah, make the player prefab a prefab. Great. And I can delete the prefab, yes. Create a folder, scripts. I already have a scripts folder. Normally, no, I deleted it because I didn't want to have it. So actually, let's change things a bit because I like to have a separation between the game stuff, the stuff that I'm creating, and the one that is more like assets and stuff like that. So create scripts, we create a new I component data. So we can go to create ECS entities I component data and call it the player. Opening it in Hider, which is now free for non-commercial use. Okay, the auto connect no longer exists. Actually, a lot of them no longer exist because I have removed all the sample folders. So let's try to close everything but this one. Okay. And we replace it with the one in the documentation. So here we have a component data tag component, which will define that it's our player, and the baker that will just add the tag to the entity and say that it's a dynamic transform usage flag. So it's a dynamic entity, meaning that it has both visual representation, so it needs the local to world, and it also can move. So I don't remember exactly which component it involves, but basically it's setting up the entity so that it can move in 3D space and be represented on screen. So now we go back to the player prefab and we add the player authoring bad example because I don't think I can add this. So let's lock the editor and try to add this. Yes, I can't because it's not the same name between the mono behavior and the actual object, the actual script. So let's invert them both and rename the script because I don't think that's enough. No. Okay, and rename the script here. So first inconsistency in the documentation or tutorial. You actually need to have the baker, so which is a mono behavior. You actually need to have that as first place in the script and having the same name as the file. So they probably need to change that a bit. Actually, yeah, sorry, my mistake. They did say to name the file player authoring, so my bad. And then, so we add that player authoring to the prefab. That's what we did here. And we add a component, ghost authoring component. GHOST, ghost authoring component. Okay, so that will make it a networked entity, which would mean that if I don't have that, it's a client-only entity, maybe. So that may be a solution for you, Coding Jammer. Maybe if I just have an entity without the ghost authoring, it will not be synced over the network, so it's a player-only entity. Client-only entity, sorry. Because they're saying when you attach a ghost authoring component to a prefab, Unity automatically serialize translation and rotation component and adds the linked entity group authoring script. Okay, it doesn't say anything about the networking. Before you can move the capsule around, you must change some settings in the newly added ghost authoring component. Okay, so we need to change some stuff here. You need to enable the as owner. So apparently this will tell that it can be player controlled. This automatically adds and checks a new property called support auto comment target. Yes, it does. And change the default ghost mode to owner predicted. Okay. Later, setting the network ID member of the ghost owner component through code ensure that you predict your own movement. Okay, good. Now we need to create a spawner. So in the project tab, right click and create a new empty C# script. So let's create a empty C# script. So let's put it iComponent data again, and we should name it layer spawner authoring. So it will again be a mono behavior. Layer spawner authoring, checking for the typos, making sure I'm not misspelling anything, otherwise it won't work. So for now I will just follow the tutorial or the documentation, and I will reorganize stuff later, because I kind of like to split my components and my authoring components in two different assemblies, so that when I recompile something, doesn't necessarily trigger the baking workflow for everything. Yes, I can't recall everything. Currently paused till Unity release ECS for all, but I remember having problem detecting collision with ghosts. We'll see. We'll see what we have as issues when we get there. ECS for all, yes, it will make things simpler to work with, like animation, audio, and stuff like that. Even though I feel that the way I do it in my tutorial series and that I will do it in this project is fairly simple to set up. But yes, it will definitely simplify things. I'm not exactly sure how it will solve the client-only issue, so we'll see. But it's still some time in the future, let's say. I'm not sure that it will be in a few months, or I don't know. We just got the Unity 6 release, so I'm not sure that we'll get that soon. Rename the script, replace the content of the script, that's done. Right click in the hierarchy window and create an empty spawner. Okay, so that's done. In the hierarchy, let's create an empty spawner. We add the player authoring, player spawner. Yes. So either I misspelled something, so let's check that. No, so we do need to have the mono behavior in first place. So that is something that the documentation needs to update. Still can't? Didn't I save? Yes, I did save. I can't drag it on the object. Needs to derive from mono behavior, but it does. Okay. Why don't you want to be part of that? What can you say about Unity physics? Doesn't it provide everything you need for physics? Yes, it should. the only issue I know I will have with Unity Physics is that for Cinemachine, all this stuff about the camera decollisioning and stuff like that won't work because Cinemachine doesn't see the ECS physics. Yes, and yes, you're right. Coding Jammer, the dots physics doesn't have it's stateless, so you don't have stuff like on trigger enter, on trigger exit, on trigger stay, and stuff like that. So you do have to take care of that yourself. Okay, let's do something different. If you don't want to work like that, let's actually remove you. Did I start the auto reload or not? Yes, it should probably run so that start. Hopefully that will solve the compiling every time I change window. Okay. So let's actually create a mono behavior. So you don't tell me that it's not a mono behavior. Call you with the expected name. Unsupported change, recompiling. Okay, never mind. Creating a new file is not a supported change. Fine. Okay, and now I can take back this, paste it here, and move the mono behavior above. So you should tell me now that it's a mono behavior and that I can add it to my spawner. Actually, I locked the editor, so I was trying to add it to the wrong object. Spawner, and on the spawner. Okay, we are getting somewhere. So we've created an empty, we have called it spawner with the empty object selected in the hierarchy player spawner. Adding it, okay. And I need to add that to move the spawner into the shared data subscene. I didn't create a shared data subscene, so let's do that. Shared data. Move the spawner there. Okay, good. And player prefab, still in the inspector window, set the player prefab field to the prefab of the same name. So I need to also set the player prefab here. Enable communication between client and server. You need to establish a connection. That would be good indeed. Multiplayer Service SDK manages connections so you can focus on which message are communicated. Netcode for entities use remote procedure calls, RPC, for its message. Critical concept in netcode for entities is in-game. When a connection is marked with in-game, it tells the simulation that it's ready to start synchronizing. You must send a go in-game RPC when you are ready for the server to start synchronizing and to spawn the prefab. Okay, create an RPC that acts as a go in-game message. In the project tab, create an empty C# script, and that script will be an iSystem first. So let's create an iSystem. Entities iSystem, and we call that go in-game systems, plural. go in game systems. And it's absolutely not in the correct folder. So I need to move it. Okay, and open it in Rider. Okay, and copy everything from the doc. It's a long one. To this file. Okay, so what do we have? Not necessary using statement. We have a system set. What is that? This allows sending RPCs between a standalone build and the editor for testing purposes. In the event when you finish this example, you want to connect server client standalone build to a client configured editor instance. Okay, so this one works for client, server, and scene client. Yeah, so that's what I was saying a bit earlier. For now, I'm just following the documentation, so I put everything into scripts. But I usually like to separate my authoring component, which are supposed to be editor only, in a separate folder with their own assembly definition. And then I have other folders for runtime, so a runtime assembly. And even in the runtime assembly, I have a separate folder for like systems and components, so that everything is fairly easy to find. I kind of go into extremes with having one component per file, but we'll see how it goes. I will probably change a bit the way I do things and try to have as few components as possible. So sometimes the components will be fairly big, mainly for the character controller, but we'll see how it goes. Usually I just split at least the runtime from the authoring and from the editor if there is a custom editor somewhere, but yeah. Actually, I can show you in another project that I have. Yeah, so that's, oops, that's not the windows I wanted to share. That's usually my split. I have the authoring, editor, and runtime. So in the authoring, I have my scripts for authoring systems. So authoring mono behavior, sorry. The editor is for editor stuff. And the runtime is then split. It has its own assembly definition and it's split into components and systems. So yeah, that's how I plan to do this with this project also. So, okay, so we have a system here that apparently allows us to receive and send, to send RPC commands from a standalone build and the editor. Okay. We'll see what it gives us later. The RPC request for the client to server. RPC request from client to server. Okay, so client is sending, server is receiving. For go to game, in game, and send snapshot input. So okay, so this one will tell the server that this client is ready to enter the game. When a client has a connection with a network ID, go in-game and tell the server to also go in-game. Okay. So this system will say, once I've achieved the connection, I'm fine, I've loaded everything on my side. I now want to go in-game with the server. So I'm ready to receive a snapshot from the server state and synchronizing my data with the server. So we have onCreate, which require the player spawner. So we do need to have the player spawner in the loaded scene on the client, because this is client system. Okay. And we also need to have an entity with a network ID and network stream in game. So basically a connection that represents the connection entity. Okay. And then on the update, we are looking for the network ID. Okay, so no, it doesn't have yet the stream in game, so it's a connection that is not yet in game. Isn't in game yet. So basically that will react to a client connecting, but that is not yet in game. And if it's in game, I want to consider that I become in game on my client, and I want to request to go in game to the server through the go in game request, which is the RPC we've defined above. And we add the send RPC command request on the connection entity. Actually, let's rename this connection. That was a good name. Oops. Okay. So that's my connection. And then, okay, it's using a temporary comment buffer and playing it back right after that. Fine. Now, when the server receives the go in game request, go in game and delete the request. Okay, so we have a system that runs on the server only, and then it also requires to have the player spawner. So on the main scene on the server, we'll need to have the player spawner too. Yeah, okay. We need to find basically the RPC. So that's to look for the RPC, or to run the system only when there is a RPC received. And we have a lookup of network IDs. When we update, we find the spawner, okay, and we get the prefab entity from that spawner. So that's our player entity that will spawn for the incoming connection. Get the name of the prefab being instantiated. Okay, so we'll give the name of the prefab to the entity. I'm not sure that's working that applies in build, but okay. We get the world name. Not sure why we need to get the world name. Comment buffer, we create a comment buffer, we update the lookup, and then we iterate through all our RPC. Okay. We get the source connection from the RPC. But how? Request RPC, receive RPC command request. Okay, so that's the one we set here. Okay, so that's our connection entity from the client. A debug log, fine. We create the prefab that is gathered from the spawner. We assign it to the connection, so network ID. Okay, so we find the network ID of our connection from the lookup. So the network ID, okay. So that's another entity, basically. And we add the player to the linked entity group between the player and the session. So that will automatically delete the player or destroy the player when we disconnect. Okay. So if I wanted the player to be able to rejoin a game after it was disconnected, for instance, because for my game I want the session to have like 4 characters, one for each player, but you don't need to be 4 to play the game. So if one of the controlled character by a player, the player gets disconnected, I don't actually want to destroy the character. I want it to be taken over by an AI or whatever, and then if the player rejoins, to connect to it. So I will probably need to remove that, to do remove if want the player to rejoin. And then I'm destroying the RPC command entity and playing back the buffer to run everything, and that's it. Okay, so we've went through this. So normally this should automatically connect and spawn the player. So right now Outreload is not very helpful because most of the change that I'm doing is creating new systems that are source generated, so it doesn't support that. But we'll see that there is a way to design your code in a way that will avoid this kind of recompilation, thanks to Outreload. So okay, I have my 2 players. So what happens if I enter play? First one is connecting. And the second one. Okay, so where is my player? Am I wrong to expect to have a capsule being spawned? So what does it say? Take creator RPC to go in game, okay. Rename the script, okay. Replace the content, okay. That's what we did, we looked through it. Moving the prefab, but I'm not even seeing the prefab. So let's take a look at the entities hierarchy. Dock that here. So given that we have first system, First system require a player spawner and a network ID. So do we have something that has a network ID on the client? Add a filter, component, network ID. We don't. Okay. Did I miss something on the spawner? No. That's the RPC, but who is creating the RPC? So here I'm defining the RPC. Here for the client simulation and scene client, I have this system. I require the player spawner. Do we have the player spawner? We don't. Okay, so we need to add, we need to add the player spawner here. And I should probably stop playing, but apparently it worked immediately. Let's remove the errors. No, that's the prefab. Sorry, I don't want to have the prefab. I do want to have the spawner. So I do have the player spawner here. Yes, entities hierarchy. Player spawner. I do have it on the server and on the client. And the player spawner has the player spawner component. Yes. Okay. Let's look at the systems, entities, systems. Yeah. We are having the same ideas, I think. What was the name of the system? Go in-game client system. Yes, there are two words. And I should find the Go in-game client system. I do have it with one entity, which is the player spawner, I believe. Yes. This one has 0 entities, so there is no entity with a network connection or network ID or network stream in-game. So where are those created? Did I skip part of the documentation by... So installing netcode package, netcode for entities, that's okay. Build your first session with netcode for game objects, that's not what we want to do. Build a session with netcode for entities, that's what we want to do, and that's what we were looking at. Configure play mode, build setting, project setting, create the initial scene. New subscene, shared data, so that's what I skipped, but I did recreate it. Okay. The ghost prefab is created. it has the player authoring. Create the spawner. We did create the spawner. We moved the spawner into the shared data subscene. Create a script, empty C# script, go in game systems. That's the one we did here. And that's it. Is there some kind of leftover bootstrap or something like that? No. I will try to add something. Can you check the journal, activate it, and see if the Go in game client system creates a send RPC command request? So actually, the Go in game client system will create this. No, it won't create it because we don't have any entities with a networked ID. If I look at the hierarchy and look for something with a network ID, there's nothing in the client world. And in the server world. No, it's not. We don't have the debug log. So I can add a debug. Sending RPC to connect from client. But we won't have that because there is no networked ID. And I don't know where this one is created. And I think it has something to do with the bootstrap. Maybe I screwed something up. We'll try this, and I will try after that to add the override bootstrap. Okay. How many times does it need to import the assets? So no, I'm not seeing the log. I'm actually seeing this log, which is one for the client, one for the server. But I'm not seeing the one I'm expecting. So let's try to add what I wanted to add, the override automatic netcode bootstrap. Enable automatic bootstrap. Does that change anything? No. What is the issue here? Probably missing a system. Let me check my other project. Git televirus assets game netcode scripts. Okay, so in my other project I have, okay, I can't zoom that. Join game request, join game system. So that's probably the component and this one the system. There is a netcode bootstrap, but that's a custom one that I made. Netcode player authoring. Oh, Visual Studio. Why? Okay, at least it will be this distinction between the two files, two projects. That's the spawner. Okay. Join game request is just the RPC. Join game system is the same system that I had. Register player. So this one runs on the server, so it's a going game. It's the one that's spawning the player from the server. And that's my UI interaction. So there is no reason why I should not have a network entity. If I just put the prefab directly, the player prefab here. Okay. Let me disable the other player because I don't want it to take time. Okay, so I can't put that here. A netcode connection event listener. So is that a component? Netcode. No. It's not an authoring component. Netcode connection event listener. Going buffer, connection flow. Manually start listening, no. Automatically connect. Ah. We are missing something, I think. If I look at, oops. Where's my page? Here. If I look at this documentation from netcode for entities, the connection flow. By default, connection bootstrap only creates the client and server world. It's up to the developer to decide how and when the server and client open their communication channel. Okay, so I'm probably missing the auto connect bootstrap. To establish a connection, you must get the network driver, stream driver singleton present in both client and server world, and then call their connect or listen on it. Okay, so let's try this. So we have the default connection, auto connection. Go to script, create a new entity, component data, replace everything. So auto connect bootstrap, because that's one file that I have in my other project, which is the bootstrap, but it's not the auto connect one. It was one that I've worked on to work like I wanted. I can actually go directly here. Should open it here. Okay. I removed the wrong object in the shared data, so I need to create again the spawner and add back the spawner script and the spawner prefab, the player prefab. Okay. Let's try again. Yes, we have a player. It's not moving, but we have a player. So we, on the client, do have our network connection. So we do have the connection to it. And okay, and if I look at the player tag, I do have a player that is created. Ghost owners local, it's a player. We have the position. It's enabled the auto command target. Network ID 1. Okay, but I can't move it, so it will spawn in place. So we'll continue with the moving before we try with the other virtual player, because otherwise they will both be on the same location, so we won't see the difference. Actually, we can see in the log maybe. Sending RPC to connect from client, so that's a log I've added. Server word, setting connection 1 to in-game, spawning ghost player prefab for them. Okay, so that seems to be working. Now for the player. Supports auto command target, okay. Moving the prefab. So because you use the support auto command target feature, when you set up the ghost component, you can take advantage of the high input component data struct for storing the input data. Okay. In your project tab, right click on the script folder and create a new script. Okay. Let's create a new script, entities, script, and we need to call that player input authoring. Actually, let me copy Yeah, I shouldn't have done that, but never mind. Reloading. I should probably disable the domain reload, but it's only in Interplay mode, I think, now. The option. It won't prevent me from reloading the domain every time I change a script, will it? Let's do it either way. Don't never remember if it's project setting or preferences. Domain, no. So it's probably in the other one, project settings, domain. The Interplay mode option. Here. Ah, they changed the presentation. It's no longer some checkbox. Okay, don't reload anything. We'll try it like that. I think the only issue with that is if there is a static variable or static members, that will not reset them. What script did I just create? The player input authoring. And copy paste. And again, let's put the mono behavior in first place. Okay, so this one, what do? We create, or we add to the entity the player input component, which will get the horizontal and vertical. Good. And then in the ghost input system group, we are creating a system that requires a player to be in game. So that's a player is in game. And we have the player spawner. I'm not sure why we still need the player spawner for that, but okay. And for the ghost owner is local entities. So for the entities that are locally owned, so I'm a client that owns this entity, I will look at the input and I will set the input to be the horizontal and vertical axis. So it's using still the old input system. So we'll change that also at some point. Okay. And what should we do with that? We should attach the player input authoring script to the player prefab. Okay. Importing assets. There is not much assets to import. Why are you so long? Have you guys already tried to use netcode for entities? What's your experience with it? Or network game in general? Are you like experienced developers in terms of netcode concepts? Or discovering stuff just like me? Okay, on the prefab, so let's log the prefab. I want to add my player authoring input. Yes, it's working. Great. And finally create a system that can read this input and move the player. Okay, so we create a player movement system, entities, player movement, oops, system. And copy, paste. Okay. Updating group, predicted simulation system group. Okay, so there is the notion of predictions. So basically, my understanding is that for the client to feel responsive and reactive, you need to not wait for the state to come back from the server, because you will have the latency, so it will take a few milliseconds to go to the server, processed by the server, and come back. So we start moving the player instantly on the client side, and then we check when the actual position validated by the server comes back, if we did predict it correctly, or if not, if we need to realign the position of the character. We are having a simple move. I think that's the same movement code that was in the sample scene we used with the multiplayer center. We have the simulate tag. So apparently this one, I'm not exactly sure why or what its purpose is, but apparently for every system, or for every system that we will do in netcode, we need to have the simulate tag in the required components. It's an IEnable component, and probably it's something to do with simplifying the workload on the system, or maybe the resimulation. If you mispredicted something, you need to roll back and repredict them. So I think at this point it's useful. And then for the movement, we have basically the inputs that we set in the previous script, and we are updating the local transform. Again, you cannot move an entity by updating the local to world. You need to update the local transform, because the local to world will be overwritten by the computation from the local transform in the transform system group. So we normalize the input, multiply it by the speed, and we then move the player. That should be good. Okay. So now if I enter play, it's still reloading the domain, but I did check the settings. I don't know why. It's taking so long that they should make it bounce around like the DVD logos and stuff like that. Can I move? Yes, I can move. It's a bit not very smooth for the movement, but okay. What? Yeah, I did set a reasonable bandwidth or network simulation settings. Okay, and can I now check if I add another player? And the next section, is it? No, it's not yet started. Activating. So the next section will be about joining a session with the widget. Create a session. Create a session. Okay, we'll see after this one. Still not activated. That was the documentation. Ah, it's activated now. Okay, so where is my window? It's here. Opening. So no one is answering my question. Do you guys have any experience with netcode games? Don't be shy. I don't, so. Don't be ashamed of saying that you have or don't have any experience. And if I'm doing something wrong and you have a lot of experience, please tell me. Okay, where is my second player? Still opening the scene. Okay. Feels a bit long. If I enter play mode, will that force you to do something? Okay, you're still working. And the other one is still opening the scene. Do I need to deactivate it and reactivate it? Let's activate another one while this one is trying to load the scene. Ah! Did it work? Yes, okay, so stop activating the third one. We'll just do with these two. Okay, and it's still in play mode now. Funny. Okay, let's enter with this one then and see if we connect. Yes, 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 we connected to both. Socket creation failed, okay. Don't know why, but it's working. I mean, I do have both my players and they are moving, okay. So we are back to the beginning of the stream somewhat because we have auto connect. And if I stop playing, it stopped playing this one also. Okay, good. So should we take a look at the session with the widget? Create a Canva or Canva create session. Hierarchy, multiplayer widget, info, show session code. No, sorry. First step. So let me put that back up here. And I want in the hierarchy to create widget create and create session. Good. In the hierarchy window, select Canva create session. In the inspector window, set the rect position to 50. The editor is locked. Okay, rect position Y50. Right click on the hierarchy window, show session code. Widget. Session info, show session code. Okay. Right click in the hierarchy window, select multiplayer widget, join and leave, join session by session code. Join and join. Okay. Maybe I was supposed to reach that point, so maybe I don't need my bootstrap anymore. Because maybe this is the code that will actually create the session or the connection. Okay, and for this one, we set the y by -100. Save to refresh the scene for player 2. Okay. Player 2 scene is updated. And then press enter play mode. Okay, so actually let's comment this one. So that it doesn't auto-connect, and I will try to use this. Okay. So we have our two clients. Scene dependency cache couldn't be imported. Okay. Let's create a session play. Joining session, connecting. Yes, I do have my player connected. Now I have this one that I can use in the second player. Oops. I don't know why it's freaking out with subscene or whatever. Joining session. My second player is not there. Connection timeout. Okay. Let's disconnect everyone. refresh everything and try again. Okay, no error anymore, so I can create the scene, the session, sorry. Okay, I have the session and the character is moving, and I can copy the code, join from here. Yes, okay. So we are having a session using relay, I assume, and we have a host and a player. So that's good for the, let's say, connection. So time to reorganize stuff a bit and then start diving into the actual character movement. And I know this will be working, so what I want to do is to disable it for now and reuse my autoconnect so that I'm just connecting directly. And actually, with this, maybe I can combine both of them. But let's ignore that for now. We'll try to do a more complicated bootstrap setup later. For now, I want to dive into the actual character movement. Let's try to at least do the simple velocity verlet. So let's check multiplayer widget. That's done. Basic movement, say it's done. Main menu, we'll postpone that, and we'll do the basic verlet movement. First, I want to reorganize things a bit. So within my scripts, I will create a folder for let's call it netcode, and I want to put everything that is related to the actual connection, so all of the scripts in there. And I will, oops, not showing Explorer. I've unfocused the editor, so it's recompiling or whatever. This is very not pleasing. Do you guys have this kinds of issue also when you work with Unity, to whenever you exit or unfocus the editor window and come back, it's re-importing every asset. It's re-importing everything. I don't know exactly what it's doing, but it's doing a lot of stuff. And if you know how to stop it from doing that, I would like to know also. Okay, create another folder for the locomotion. So that will be everything that is related to the player movement. So for now, I have these two scripts. And actually, the player movement, tac. This one, player movement, is a very, very simple movement logic. So I want to implement velocity verlet, and basically the velocity verlet, I will cheat a bit as this code. I can put that here. That should probably be replaced by float 3. that will be more practical for Unity mathematics. It wants a time step, so actually let's put the time step in float time step. That's good. And it also wants current position, current velocity, current acceleration. And for that, let's create a public struct Verlet component data, which will have a public float 3 position with a capital P position, velocity, and acceleration. And this one is mistyped, and I will put this one here. Ref Verlet more sense. And okay, we'll have the Verlet dot position instead of current position. We'll have the Verlet dot velocity. That was current velocity, yes. Current velocity, current velocity, current velocity. And instead of current acceleration, we'll Verlet current and acceleration. And then we are missing gravity, but I actually don't want to have any gravity for this one yet. And the new acceleration is updated after that. Okay, because here basically the acceleration that we will have is the one from the movement of our character, later on with the gravity and the jump features. So let's go with that for now, because what's a bit confusing with velocity Verlet is that the position is actually updated before every other aspect, so the velocity and acceleration. And usually with something like semi-implicit Euler integration, we usually basically accumulate all the changes we want to do, then compute the displacement and apply it to the position. And that's the approach I used for the other project I had, but velocity Verlet is more accurate in terms of physics representation. So for the jump and so on, it's easier to control the height of the jump, or it's more accurate to control the height, length, and so on for the jump, which I want. So let's not put any acceleration for now, and that will work like that. And the position is here. So for my player, I actually want the input transform local transform. Okay. Let's put in let's actually put the acceleration in new acceleration float 3. So basically let's assume that this will be my acceleration. This will be my acceleration. My new acceleration. this one. Okay, and we'll put that in float 3, new acceleration here, and remove this part. Okay, and now we can do the verlet step. It's automatically burst compiled because it's called from a burst compile context, so that's okay. We pass in the new acceleration, we need the time step, so that's gonna be it. Actually, var time step. I'm not sure that this value will be still appropriate, but we'll see. This one is in, this one is in, and this one is ref. And I actually need the verlet component in read write, so let's add it. I will say verlet a lot, but I don't know if it's verlet or verlet. So if I change the pronunciation in between phrases, don't be confused. Okay, good night, Coding Jammer. Thanks for joining, and hope you enjoyed. You will be able to catch up with the replay, and the next session will be next Monday, so see you there maybe. And what I was looking, yes, for the verlet. Okay, so we have the verlet, ref verlet, and I can't put it directly there, so let's call it verlet RW and create a ref verlet equal ref verlet RW. What don't you like? Ref var, okay, it's the other way around. Ref var, ref, and this one. Okay, so that this one is actually the reference to the actual component, and since I'm passing it as reference, I'm updating the component itself, so I don't have to do it afterwards. And the new position can be not the displacement, but the actual verlet dot position, which has been updated here from the new position. So that should be good. So if I do that, all I'm missing right now is to add the actual verlet component onto the player. So I need to add a component which is the verlet component. Yes. Actually, yeah, no, I don't need to initialize it. So that should be enough. Let's go back here, let it compile. I should have put it static. Let's do it. Not that. I think that for me to work properly here, static void. If I put the method in static, I think that hot reload should be able to pick it up automatically. So if I change something in there and not in there, it should work properly. Okay, is everything compiled? Apparently yes. Let's try to connect just a single player at least and see if it still moves. Yes, it does, very slowly, but it should accelerate. Very slowly. Okay, so that basic movement is working. Probably need to have some stuff. So let's say in the player authoring, so that will trigger recompiles, of course. I don't think Reload can manage it, but we'll see. Public float max speed. And public float time to max speed. Let's assume a maximum speed of 5 and time to reach that maximum speed to be 0.5 seconds. That should be fine. And create another component, locomotion parameters. Actually, let's do this. Like that. Copy this, put it there. Won't put default values and directly put the public parameters here. Do I need to put them? Yes. Something that's probably smarter is to put them outside of here. So, okay. So we should be able to set this parameter now, and I should be able to add component data to the entity, and them being, it's not add component data, add component. Okay. Cannot access non-static field locomotion parameter in a static context. Yeah. Authoring dot locomotion parameters. Better. And there is a typo here. Parameters. Next. And still a typo. Never assign. No, that's fine. Normal. It's supposed to be used from the editor. And actually, let's at least organize a bit stuff. Let's put all the components together and all the systems together. Okay. You need mathematics and you need input. Change input. You will need a new component in read-only, which will be the player. No, the locomotion parameters, yes. Locomotion parameters, that's fine. And let's give in the locomotion parameters in locomotion parameters. Mistyping everything. Actually, let's put this one line below with all simulate. Okay, and locomotion parameters. Yes, parameters value arrow. Okay, so now I have my locomotion parameters and I can do a few things. The first thing that I want to do is to make sure that my maximum speed, so let's set the normalize safe new velocity float 30. Actually, that's the default value, so it doesn't matter. So this one will normalize the vector for the velocity. If it's not a safe vector to normalize like 0, it will return 0. So that's fine. And I want to multiply that by the locomotion parameters maximum speed. And I want then to math dot clamp. Ah, don't remove everything. Clamp this value. Est-ce que je peux? Can I do a seal on float 3? Seal float 3. No, it's not what I want. Okay, let's do a clamp. Value to clamp, it's this one. The lower bound is float. Actually, that should be the max velocity. That's the maximum velocity. And I should clamp my new velocity between the max velocity and the minus max velocity. Because if how does that work? Because I don't want it to exceed the maximum velocity, basically. It will still accelerate. Okay, maybe that won't work like that, but we'll see. Alors, max lower bound mean upper bound value clamp. Okay, that should be fine. That should work. Let's work it like that. And for the actual acceleration, I'm not going to use that. Instead, I want to have directly the float 2 input. Normalized one, yes. Okay, let's do the normalized one. Okay. And now that I have my input, I need to compute the new acceleration. And that new acceleration will be the input, which is normalized. So my new float 3, one that I had earlier, dot x0 dot y, and I want to multiply that by the acceleration, and the acceleration will be the maximum speed divided by 0.5. Maximum speed divided by, is that the correct physics? Maximum speed divided by time to max speed. So I'm dividing a speed by a time, so that should be an acceleration. So that should give me the necessary acceleration to reach the maximum speed in the given time to max speed. No errors, no errors. Never assign, that's fine. You don't complain here, but you do here. So this one is false. Parameters. Okay. Okay, okay. Good. Let's compile. I can actually keep going a little bit because I don't have anything planned tomorrow morning, but it's getting late. So we'll see if this works. I need to not forget to set the maximum speed on the player. If this works, I will be happy. I will try to commit everything because nothing is part of the source control. And we'll see the next steps in the next stream, where spawner is here, but it's actually the prefab that I want because it's the one that has the player input, and this one needs to be serializable for it to show in the editor. Prefab, this one. My locomotion parameter, let's say 5 and 0.5. Okay. Interplay mode. Of truth, I'm moving. Yes, that is great. And actually, let's pick our player. We should be able to see the velocity in the verlet component. V should be at the end. Yes, verlet component. No, velocity is far from being 5. So my clamp logic is not working. So let's actually try to edit it live. Let's first try to not clamp it at all. So not clamp it at all. Maybe I should do it on the half velocity. No, probably not. Did that recompile? No. Can I change the value from here? Then. So that does double my speed. I did save the script. Yes, I did. Some of the recent changes have not been applied. Okay, so it hasn't been applied. Let's start again. I need to check my other project because I know I managed to make it work with hot reload with ECS. So I need to verify exactly what I did. Maybe it's because it's still technically part of the system. So I should actually put it in a separate utility function or utility class for it to be not linked at all with the iSystem, which is source generated. We'll do that as the next try. Okay. Client world. I 2 players. Why is it flickering? It's not reassuring. Okay, there is something very, very strange with that. The movement is not smooth at all, and the velocity is going all over the place. So there is something wrong. Ignoring that, speed. I'm still okay. I'm still multiplying the movement input by the speed, so that's not a good idea because it was involving also the time step. So that's probably why the velocity was like moving all over the place, because every time the time step changed. Actually, I'm not in a fixed time step here. That's bad for the Verlet simulation. I should probably be in a fixed time step. Check that. Oui. Okay. So we are moving fast now. And our speed is capped at 10 automatically, but it's supposed to be 5. Now it's 20. Okay, so there is some math to figure out. Because apparently my math is wrong, because if I do 0.5, I expect to be at 20. Yes. And I screwed up the position and acceleration for some reason. Maybe because I went through 0, yeah. I went through the 0 time to max speed, which is division by 0. And not very, very good. So let's actually create a public static class locomotion utils. Let's first compile it and make it a class struct for the sake of first compile. Yeah, no, so no, it's a class. Okay, never mind. Let's put that here in public. Okay, burst compile here also. Okay, and locomotion util. Okay. So acceleration, my new acceleration that was supposed to be that's not an acceleration. New acceleration time step. So should I divide it by the time step or multiply it by the time step? Yes. So here I have, let's say, meter per seconds. I'm dividing by a time, so squared, and multiplying by a time step, which is a duration, so time. So it's still meter per seconds. No, there is should not multiply it by time step. You have verlet.velocity called new acceleration. Is it okay? No, it's not. You are right. Thank you very much. This is obviously not the correct order. Thank you, Nubas. Tac. Let's try again. So here it's normal that it's recompiling. I moved a lot of stuff, but hopefully next modification in the verlet method will not trigger a recompile. Poof. They need to put in like a small game, a ping pong game with the window while it's loading. Okay, start. Ooh. I sent it flying, I think. Yes. I can't stop it. So the acceleration seems correct now. The speed is not capped, so let's put again the clamp. I forgot my mass, but I will have to redo it. Max velocity equal mass normalize save my new velocity of my new velocity. I'm starting to get a bit tired because I'm switching to French naturally. I'm sorry for that. Times locomotion parameters max speed. So that's my maximum speed. And my new velocity should be clamped between new velocity between the, I think that's what I did, max and I should probably reassign it to it because it's not a reference type. Okay. So this time, notice it didn't tell me that there was unsupported changes. Hopefully that will work. And we should be able to tweak it even with play mode, the editor in play. I mean, 1 minute at least. Yeah, 45 seconds, 46 seconds. Okay, it's a bit better. It's not the correct one, it's the second one. No, the velocity is kind of screwed. And I don't know where the character went. It's still going because I didn't put any drag. So there is nothing to stop it. I shouldn't have stopped. Okay, let's re-enter play mode and do the modification at the same time. So this is my new acceleration. Basically, if there is an input. If there is no input, if mass dot length squared of the new acceleration below mass dot epsilon. So by doing this, I'm getting the squared length of the vector, and if it's below epsilon, so a very, very small value, I assume there is no acceleration. If there is no acceleration, the acceleration should in fact be a deceleration. Should not do that on the acceleration, I should do it on the input. On the input, and if I just do the inverse of the velocity, it will stop immediately. If I just do the inverse of the acceleration here, it will stop in the same time, but it will go back after that. So actually this and the verlet velocity length. Would this be equivalent? No. I need the input to be null and the velocity to be not null, so it's the opposite. So mass length squared, this one is above mass, mass dot epsilon. And in that case, the new acceleration will be the opposite of the velocity. So mass dot normalize safe velocity times minus this, and that will be my new acceleration. This should stop the player, the capsule for now, to automatically. Okay. I don't think it recompiled properly. The velocity is still going. The velocity should naturally decrease normally, no? My condition is not working. I should not have stopped. I can not stop it. Debug log. Decelerating. I can disable the second player for now. We know that the connection is working, so the movement is working on the network, so I should be able to just change my network, my movement code, and should not impact the network stuff. So deactivate that player. What is it doing? Now the velocity is moving alone. Okay, so I think I'm a bit too tired to think straight about this movement code, so we'll probably leave it at that and say here, fix me for next time. Fix me? No, it doesn't take in the fix me. Okay, let's take a to do. Fix the acceleration slash deceleration and max speed logic. Okay, I think that's going to be it for me tonight. Let's just add that to the source code, to the source control, sorry. And I can't add that to source control. Open this a bit more. Deleted item. I'm fine with the deleted item. Package, you can commit that. Where is my code? Okay, that's going to be painful if I really don't like this. I need to add them from the scripts themselves and not from the folder, it's really, really painful. Okay, everything should be added. And okay, I want to commit the scenes also. Okay, let's say added simple autoconnect and relay session connection, added basic velocity vers les sim movement, and I think that's it. Okay, check that in. So what have we accomplished today? We have the basic movement that's done. The main menu will remove that. The Verlet movement, let's say that it's done, but we still need to have the maximum, maximum speed and acceleration time. So this will be the next step for the character controller. For the next episode, you could try to disable reload domain and scene on interplay mode in project settings editor. I already did, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, project settings. I never know exactly where it is. Play mode in player settings. Play mode. No, that's not that. So you are saying, okay. Project setting editor, interplay mode settings, do not reload domain or scene. So I think I'm good with that. But I don't know, it keeps, I don't know. Maybe I need to restart the editor for it to take effect, I don't know. We'll see that in the next stream on Monday. Just for information, I think there is a daytime saving whatever mess happening this weekend. So there will be a 1 hour shift in the schedule because I'm still doing it at 10 p.m. my time, but it will be maybe a different time for you. So keep an eye on the schedule on Twitch and on the Twitter and Discord channel, because I will be announcing the next stream on there. And if you are subscribed to the YouTube channel, you should receive a notification whatever the time I'm going live. So thank you for watching. Thank you for joining me this evening or today for you, I don't know. And see you in the next episode for hopefully a bit more of movement development with the acceleration, maximum velocity, and hopefully if we manage to make that work, we will dive into the jumping mechanics also. So thank you, see you, and if you want to learn basic ECS, let's say, you can watch my YouTube tutorial series, and let me know what you think. Prepare some questions for the next stream if you want. Thank you, see you next time. I just need to find how we stop the stream now. Here it is, here, okay, found my window. See you, bye, see you next episode, bye.